Yeah, I'm not encouraging people to take anything, but there's a very, very famous Nobel Prize winning neuroscientist who I went to his office to visit him in New York, and he chewed 7 pieces of Nicorette during that half-hour meeting. And I was like, what is going on here? And he said, well, first of all, it increases plasticity. And second of all, he has the belief, and this is not a clinical study, but he thinks that it can also hold off certain forms of Parkinson's and Alzheimer's.
Today's brief video, I want to have an honest discussion about nicotine, both the negatives and the benefits. For those of you who are new to the channel, my name is Dr. Frank. I'm the founder of Addiction Mindset Recovery Coaching, which are programs dedicated to helping people quit nicotine, THC, energy drinks, and adult media content, substances that I once struggled with. So I was addicted to vapes, cigarettes, chewing tobacco. I've had snuffs before. You name the tobacco product, nicotine toothpicks, Nicorette gum, Nicorette patches, name the nicotine product, and there is a very good chance that I have tried it, minus with one exception, and that's any type of edible nicotine. I never messed around with nicotine gummies or anything like that because the risk of getting sick was just so high with those. Now, the first thing I want to say, 7 pieces of Nicorette in under half an hour, and Dr. Huberman might have been exaggerating, but I couldn't even fathom that. I would have immediate nicotine poisoning. Immediate. Like I'd crap myself, I'd probably vomit, I'd break out into a cold sweat. So whoever this person was he was speaking to, they are in deep. I mean, they are at that point, if you're chewing that much Nicorette, you have a legitimate physical, psychological dependence on nicotine. Okay. And I don't know that at that point, it's any more neuroprotective or helping with neuroplasticity at that level of use. Because if that guy's doing that every half hour, I can't even fathom. Now, you're going to see a lot of content, and we're going to react to other videos that's promoting the use of nicotine for neuroplasticity, prevention of Alzheimer's, maybe even helping with dementia. I know here in New York, right at Dent Neurology, they're doing major studies with nicotine when it comes to dementia and memory loss. And let's be honest, right off the bat, nicotine is a stimulant, okay? It releases dopamine, it releases serotonin, it releases epinephrine, norepinephrine, all the fight or flight response hormones, temporarily spikes blood pressure. So yes, nicotine puts you in a more alert state. And I can tell you, as someone who's been addicted to nicotine in the past, there were definitely times throughout my school career, my professional career, where yeah, if I'm writing a really long paper, if I'm doing something that's kind of boring, nicotine definitely enhanced that experience and made that experience, it made me more focused, right? It's a stimulant, and we're going to hear someone actually talk about that. Here's the problem though. Over time, to say that nicotine helps with neuroplasticity, which I understand it's been proven it has, okay? Some people would argue against that, like Dr. Amen from Amen Clinics, one of the leading experts on addiction, says anything that decreases blood flow to the brain is going to be bad. So caffeine, nicotine, both decrease blood flow to the brain long term. So he would argue probably the opposite of this. That's a bad thing too. If you're abusing nicotine, eventually over time, you're actually going to wind up in a dopamine deficit. And I'm talking about people who have nicotine addiction. They are abusing nicotine, okay? In the form of a vape, chewing tobacco, cigarettes, whatever it is, Nicorette gum, patches, whatever. You're abusing it. You're eventually going to wind up in a dopamine deficit. And that's not good for brain health. That's not good for mental health. And when we develop a dopamine deficit, usually we experience things like anhedonia, a lack of joy, or a loss of pleasure in life. And that's not good for mental health. That's not good for things. Because if we wind up experiencing that, chances are your sleep patterns are getting messed up. Chances are you're not exercising as much. If you're not sleeping and you're not exercising, there's a good chance that other aspects of your life where you should be focused on health, maybe nutrition, relationships, financial well-being, there's a good chance that those things are starting to slip. And we see a lot of those things slip in people who are addicted to cigarettes and nicotine products, right? Historically, people who smoke cigarettes tend to be from a poor demographic, financially poor, okay? And there's an argument that maybe cigarettes are part of what play a role in keeping people stuck in that financial state. So I think long-term abuse of nicotine, absolutely not going to have good neuroplastic effects, because you're going to be suffering from the side effects of addiction. And addiction, we know, definitely is not good for the brain long-term. And there's no way to spin that into a positive, in my opinion. So when we take a small clip like this from Joe Rogan and Dr. Huberman, which is a valid clip, and use it to our justification to continue smoking cigarettes, continue vaping, continue chewing tobacco, continue using nicotine, I think that can be very, very dangerous, because suddenly now we're discrediting all the bad things that have been happening because of nicotine use. Now, I want to watch another video and then react to it.
He taught me the concept of rotating stimulants. And so I try not to do, besides the cup of coffee, which almost has more like, it's great time for Layla and I. That's the only thing that I take every day. I chew Nicorette when I feel like it. I've done nicotine patches, which I actually really like a lot. Like you're gonna quit smoking patches. Those honestly feel like Adderall. Highly recommend. Like love those.
I don't think a lot of people realize how neuroprotective and actual cognitive enhancing nicotine can be if you're not an addictive personality. Like if you're not going to get hooked on it brutally to the point where you abuse it, like people who, as ridiculous as it sounds, people get less Alzheimer's occurrence when they smoke.
Oh yeah. It promotes angiogenesis.
Yeah.
And I have a ton of Alzheimer's in my family.
Yeah, that people who smoke might get less Alzheimer's, but they definitely have a higher incidence of lung cancer. So, I guess pick your battle. I don't know. Lung cancer is a pretty brutal way to die. Alzheimer's can be too, though. So, whatever. Here's the deal. I understand what they're saying, again, about using nicotine. And if you can truly use it responsibly in that regard, which I think is like 1 in 100,000 people, I think it's very, very rare that someone's going to use nicotine in the form of a patch or gum and use it very infrequently just as a boost. Yes, I could see that being of benefit. In most cases, that's not how a person's going to be consuming nicotine. They're going to wind up abusing it, because we are wired to be addicted in today's 21st century, right? We're addicted to our phones. We're addicted to our televisions. We're addicted to social media. We're addicted to YouTube. Our brains have been wired and trained for addiction. We have been trained to chase dopamine. So if nicotine starts to give us, 150% more dopamine than your average activity, there's a good chance you're going to get addicted to it. So talking about responsible use, I agree, just like I'm sure Dr. Huberman was referencing, but then again, his friend, his neuroscientist buddy, wasn't 7 pieces and Nicorette isn't really responsible. But I agree, but I just think it's extremely unrealistic. And a lot of people watching this video, a lot of people watching Derek's videos, a lot of people watching our videos, they're not doing that. They're vaping, they're smoking cigarettes, they're chewing tobacco, and they're saying, hey, great, here's a good justification for me to continue smoking, despite the fact that it's costing me money, it's damaging my relationships, it's damaging several areas of my physical health. Like, okay, at the potential of having some neuroplastic effects or preventing Alzheimer's, are you really willing to sacrifice your cardiac health, your lung health, your mental health, just the side effects of addiction? When we also know in reality, and I love this in these conversations, and I know they're big proponents of fitness and exercise and eating healthy. Guys, exercise has neuroplastic effects. Eating healthy has neuroplastic effects. Avoiding crap like sugar and all the junk out there has neuroplastic effects. Regulating your sleep, listening to music, participating in hobbies, developing a relationship with someone that you love, having intimate connections, all have neuroplastic effects. So to say, oh, well, nicotine has it. Yeah, great. So do so many other things that people should be focused on that aren't going to come with the negative side effects. Let's react to another clip, one of my favorites.
Nicotine vape pens. They're good for thinking, though, for whatever reason. It's like nicotine is a cognitive enhancer. It's like a nootropic.
Oh, I don't know if I believe that, but to me, it makes me just not be able to sleep that good. It makes me wake up being scared.
The Vaughn is one of my favorite people in the world. And I couldn't agree more with Devon. Yeah, listen, it is a nootropic. That's been proven. I think there's very few people who would disagree with that. I fully agree with Joe Rogan, but I more so agree with Devon. The side effects are with Theo Vaughn. The side effects of it, in my opinion, far outweigh the benefits. And when we consider, again, the side effects of vaping, the side effects of smoking cigarettes, the side effects of being addicted, the side effects of addiction on a person's life, I think completely wash out any benefits that there may be to nicotine. Now, if someone were to say to me, Dr. Frank, nicotine truly enhances my quality of life, and I'm going to have more on this video, I would first assess them and I would say, okay, are there other areas of your life that we could improve? Like, have you tried cold showers? Have you tried eating healthier? Have you tried exercising? We try those things. And if they still say, Dr. Frank, no, I am better with it. And I can get behind that in some cases. I really can. Because if we're going to say some people are better with an antidepressant, better with an anti-anxiety medication, that something is physiologically wrong with them, metabolically wrong with that person, and we're going to claim a medication can help it, well, then we have to be able to say the same thing for nicotine, in my opinion, because it's having a physiological effect. I would tell that person to look into the safest way of consuming it. Now, maybe that's Nicorette gum, maybe that's nicotine patches, maybe it's the nicotine pouches that go in your lip, or maybe it's smokeless tobacco. And people are going to get real shook by these comments, but I can tell you, if you're interested in what I'm saying, I'm trying to get some pretty big guest speakers on here coming up to talk about nicotine, the different forms of nicotine, and what might be the safest way of consuming it. Cigarettes are trash. Vaping's definitely safer than smoking cigarettes, right? But then again, there's so many black market vape products out there, and there's such a wide variety of vape products. I don't know what we're going to find out in years to come. I know smokeless tobacco has been around for a long time, and I know that there's a lot of misinformation out there on that. I know snus has been around for a long time, and I know there's a lot of misinformation out there on that. Now, you're still going to suffer the consequences of addiction with those things, which is ultimately why I quit. But there's that. And then, of course, you have the gum and the toothpicks and the patches. Patches and gum always made me sick. Always made me sick. I responded very, very poorly to that form of nicotine. It's a nicotine salt. The nicotine pouches, I always responded very poorly to. High anxiety, fast heart rate. The nicotine that I handled best came from smokeless tobacco, if I'm going to be honest with people. So we'll talk more about that another time, kind of a twist on the channel here. I always like to see many sides of an argument or many sides of a debate, but big picture, whether you're chewing, snussing, smoking, vaping, I think the negatives are going to far outweigh the benefits, and that's all there is to it. Don't let clips like this suck you back in to consuming nicotine products. I used to go out of my way, to Google the benefits of nicotine, successful people who use nicotine, celebrities who use nicotine, to try and justify my nicotine use. So just watch out for that. All right.